Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through a diagnosis and repair of a commonly found no start on Ford Escapes. So the complaint today is what seems like an intermittent no start where you hit the key and nothing happens. But if you hit the key and you wiggle it or you push on it, you can get the vehicle to start. Is this a starter problem, a wiring issue, a key issue, an ignition cylinder issue? Well, there's a quick test that we can do using a scan tool to be able to confirm that the ignition switch is in fact bad on here. The ignition lock housing assembly is bad. So we've got starter motor current output and starter motor relay enabled. Basically, we're trying to determine right now if the key or the ignition lock housing assembly is telling the starter to turn on. When I push the key forward here, it's not being turned on. It's not being enabled. If I hold it forward and I start to wiggle it, you see it goes to on and enabled. That little bit of wiggling on the key is enough to get the components inside to make contact to basically start the vehicle. So the customer's been wiggling their key for quite a while on this 2011 Escape. Like I said, it's a common issue on these. So what we're going to be replacing today is this entire lock housing assembly. So the lock cylinder is going to be inserted into here. That's the piece that the key, the ignition lock cylinder, is going to be going into here. That we're going to keep from the original, but the housing assembly here and the ignition switch itself is going to be replaced. Now, with these, you're also going to need the breakaway bolt. So there's a special, called a security bolt, that gets installed to lock this thing onto the column assembly. So this bolt you'll have to pick up, and when you tighten it down, the head will actually break off of the bolt, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. Now, with installing this, we are going to have to remove the steering wheel, which means we're going to have to remove the steering wheel airbag, okay? If you are uncomfortable messing with airbags or the SRS system in general, if you're not comfortable with that, don't try replacing this, okay? It's not worth getting injured over or anything like that. So if you're not comfortable dealing with airbags, then take this thing in and get it fixed somewhere. But today what we're going to do for step one is we're going to go ahead and disconnect the battery and leave the vehicle sit for 10 or 15 minutes to make sure that all the capacitors in the airbag system, the SRS system, have been discharged. That way when we go to disconnect our airbag, there's not going to be any energy or any juice left in there to potentially cause the issues. We're going to do it in the safest way possible to get this airbag out, get the steering wheel off, and replace this ignition lock housing, I guess is what you'd call it. So with the battery disconnected, we're ready to start in on the job. Now, labor time on this job is going to be 1.6 hours for a technician to accomplish this. I would expect a little bit more time if it's your first time taking the steering wheel and the assembly off. Sometimes the airbag can be tricky to get out, that type of thing. So 1.6 hours for labor time on here, and we'll list any of the tools needed down in the description of the video. That way you can find some links down there to some tools. So let's get right into it. We're going to use a 5.5mm socket, and we're going to remove all of the bolts holding the steering column shroud on. So with those bolts removed, now we should be able to pop this apart. All right, with the shroud assembly off, now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and remove this airbag module so we can get the steering wheel out of here. So for doing this, I like to use a small Allen wrench essentially and a rag to push on it. And we're going to go into the bottom of the steering wheel. It's got a small hole in here, which is basically going to allow us to press on a metal, call it like a W clip, that's holding the steering wheel airbag in place. So we're going to push up on that metal clip or bracket, which will allow the airbag to be removed. And this does take a little bit of practice to get this out. You can see here one side's already released. Now it's a trick of getting the other side out. There we go. So don't go yanking the airbag off at this point. We have to very carefully disconnect the two airbag connectors and the horn switch connector. So we'll pinch the connectors together and remove them. Disconnect our horn switch connector. There we go. There's our airbag. Very carefully set this somewhere where it's not going to get bumped, run into, dropped, whatever the case may be. Be safe about it. Okay, and now we have everything disconnected. We need to make sure that we disconnect the main connector in here, so that way we don't wreck anything when we pull the steering wheel off of here. So that main connector disconnected, and then the airbag connector here. This connector right here is actually going to stay with the column, and the side switches here, and that harness is going to stay with the steering wheel. So using a T50 Torx, we'll go ahead and remove the center steering wheel bolt. Okay, so steering wheel bolt, a little bit of Loctite it looks like on there. We'll get the torque spec when we install this guy back in. So now the steering wheel might be stuck, right? It doesn't come off. We'll lock it back in place, but it doesn't come off. But usually, if you wiggle them or tap on the back side of the wheel, they'll usually come off. Otherwise, you'll need to get a puller. Be very, very careful that you don't wreck these airbag connectors as you pull the steering wheel off. Okay, so now what we have is our clock spring, which we want to try to keep oriented at 12 o'clock. If this clock spring spins around a bunch of times, you'll actually rip the ribbon cable that's found inside of here, and then you'll end up with an airbag light on, and the steering wheel airbag will not function. All right, so with a T20 Torx, we'll remove the clock spring assembly. And this Christmas tree clip over here, pull that out. And we'll just I'm just gonna kind of let it hang there. We're not gonna bump it, not gonna mess with it. We're gonna keep the connector at the 12 o'clock setting. If you wanted to, you could take some mechanics wire or something, wrap it around here to make sure that it's maintained at that 12 o'clock setting. Now we have to remove the turn signal wiper switch assembly, 5.5 millimeter right here. And actually, I think I will go ahead and unplug this. There's no reason to let it really sit in here getting bumped by me as I'm messing with this. And being very careful to not spin that clock spring assembly. Now we'll pull the wiper switch assembly off. We'll unplug that, get that out of the way. And here's what we're trying to get to. Unplug the ignition switch. Use a trim clip removal tool, get all the Christmas tree pins disconnected from the assembly, like so. Now be very, very careful with this ring right here. This is, call it the security ring or whatever. This is basically what's going to be reading the transponder that's inside of the key. And if you break these tabs off of this transponder ring, you're going to be in trouble. It's not going to be good. It'll have to get replaced. So we're going to very carefully lift up the tab on the top and the bottom and pop that transponder ring off. We're going to get that guy out of the way as well. We don't want to break that transponder ring. It's very fragile plastic. So now our harness assembly, we can just get that out of the way. Now we're ready to go ahead and take off our assembly here. But you'll see this bolt right here, it's got no head on it. And when we put the new one on, we'll install the bolt in there, and that head will shear off right there at that thin spot. And that's the security feature on here to basically try to keep this thing from, I don't know what, from getting stolen. So I'll show you guys a trick for that. Now, a lot of people will actually grind a slot in here to put a flat blade screwdriver into it, and that works. But I don't like grinding in a customer's vehicle because all that grinding dust and everything goes all over the place. So let me show you guys what I like to do. These bolts are not super tight. So let me show you a trick. If you have clearance to get to it, this trick works pretty good. All right, so, well, it's not quite big nasty with Eric O and his deal. I like to get the air hammer out with like a thin chisel bit on there, and I just try to like tap the screw going counterclockwise. We're not applying a lot of force on there. You can see the blue is now over here. I did gouge into the aluminum housing a little bit, but that's okay. This aluminum housing is getting replaced. All right, so now we'll pinch it together here. That'll bring it up a little bit more, and now we can remove it by hand. Now, if you don't have an air hammer, that's okay. You don't need it for this job. This one does. It is accessible. You could get a punch and a hammer, and you could tap it, and it would get the job done. It's not going to be nearly as fast as using the air hammer, but it would get the job done. So we get the bolt out, and out comes our old assembly. So now we're not quite ready to set this off to the side yet because our lock cylinder, where our key goes, is still inside here. So we have to insert our key, turn it to the run position. So run position is going to be right before starting. So we'll put it in start, let it come back to run. And then on top here, there's going to be a little detent that has to get pressed in. So I'm going to actually use the same Allen wrench that I used to get the airbag off, and we'll take that, stuff it in there, and it should. Oh, I lied. We're not in the run position. We're in accessory on here. In the accessory position, you saw how it popped out right there? Accessory position on here allows us to remove our lock cylinder. So we'll get the bolt back out, pull this guy out, and well, basically throw it away at this point. So what's failing in here is when the key turns this, there's something that goes in between here, and that is not engaging the ignition switch on this side, causing our failure to occur. So swapping out the housing. Now you do want to make sure that this guy's in the right spot, the right orientation before you go shoving your lock cylinder in there. And actually from the factory, it looks like it might be close. Let's see if it goes in. Nope, see it's hitting. You don't want to force it. Take our trim tool in there and we'll turn it back. There we go. Clicks right in, a little bit of wiggle of the key. Now you can see I can go all the way to start, run, accessory, off, key comes out, key goes in. Good to go. Always prove that out before you go installing this thing back in. You don't want to run into issues. So we're ready to put this guy back on the column. It'll line up with a notch essentially in the bottom side of the column assembly here. So we'll line that notch up, and we'll install our, I don't know if this has a special name for it. I call it a breakaway bolt, whatever you want to call it. Some specialty security bolt. And that'll take an 8mm socket on there. And the best part here is if you do this all right, there's no torque spec on here. It'll just break the head off as we tighten this down. So again, make sure that your housing assembly is flush tight against the bottom side of the column. You don't want this raised edge right here. You don't want that to be not in its spot. Otherwise this thing will have the ability to move and you'll break the bolt off prematurely, resulting in the need to buy another bolt and replace it again. So everything's in place the way it should be. We'll start tightening this guy down. You can see here the gap between the aluminum and the plastic is shrinking, which is good. That's what you want to see. You should have no gap between there. And we'll start to tighten this down just using a 1/4 inch ratchet, and right there it's sheared right off. Okay, so now that's tight. That's good to go. We don't have to worry about that. So now you have a souvenir, or your garbage can has a souvenir, either way. Now we're secure, we're locked back in the way we should be. Really, the installation procedure here is just going to be the exact opposite of the way it came apart. All our Christmas tree clips go back in. We'll get our transponder ring here. Plug that guy in. Plug the ignition switch in, and then we have these two connectors that'll get plugged in as we keep moving forward here. That all looks good. We'll get our our assembly back on here for the turn signal wiper switch. Now these are all just little trim screw type things. They're all little coarse thread screws, so we're not tightening these down super tight. Again, these were 5.5 millimeter on these. All right, that's snug. We'll get the connector plug back in. And get that Christmas tree set back where it needs to be. Then we'll get our clock spring mounted again. And these are going to be our two little, I believe these were T20 Torx. Yep, T20 Torx. Just snug on those. Now we'll get our steering wheel back on, feeding the two airbag connectors very carefully through the top mounted hole here. And this steering wheel, fortunately for us, does actually have like a keyway on it. It's got a flat that will only, the steering wheel can really only go on in one position on the shaft. So we'll take our steering wheel bolt, a little bit of Loctite on there, start threading that guy in. This thing will go down to 30 foot-pounds. And again, this was a T50 Torx. All right, 30 foot-pounds on the steering wheel. Reconnect all of our steering wheel buttons. It's good to go. Make sure everything's mounted and routed out of the way, and it's time to put our airbag back in. Again, our battery is disconnected and remains disconnected on here. Carefully plugging in our connectors, making sure that they're secure. I always double check my airbag connectors, making sure they're not loose. Make sure all of our wires are mounted out of the way. Just like that, just to push that back into place. That is good to go. Now I'm gonna wait to put the shroud back on. We'll go get the battery reconnected and see what we can see. All right, I heard the scan tool beep. That's a good thing. We got power back in here. Let's see if she starts up on the first try. Key on. Oh, wipers are on. Never fails. Beautiful. Now that's what I like to see. I think we'll have, ooh, there's a spider web in front of me. That's what I like to see. I think we'll have a happy customer on this one. She's not gonna have to do the old jiggle dance with the key anymore to get this thing fired up. So not too bad of a job. Again, quick tip, if you can get the air hammer in there to get that bolt out, I prefer to do that over grinding. Again, I'm not hammering away at the steering column like a madman, you know, wrecking the steering column or anything like that. Very gently tapping away with the air hammer or a hammer and a chisel, getting that bolt, working it backwards, working that head around there. I prefer to do that over grinding just so we don't get the grinding dust inside of the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing buttoned up with the steering shroud that just basically clicks back together. You get those 3 bolts back in, and this job will be all done. So I really hope you guys appreciated the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us that thumbs up. We would really appreciate that. Also, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Make sure you click that little bell icon in there. That way you get notified of our new videos coming out. Again, I really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much for sticking with this. And as always, everyone, happy wrenching. Thank you.